Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nurse Strong. We are your hosts. I'm Alicia,
I'm Nikki.
and today we're going to talk about the Preceptee Experience. Nurse Strong is all about positively influencing the culture of nursing. Like that's what we want to do. We want to, in whatever way, positively influence the culture of nursing, and we believe that that kind of starts at the beginning, whether in nursing school or just the way you view nursing early on in your career.
Right.
So
that transition phase of going from being a student to, okay, now I'm in the workforce, I'm a nurse.
Right.
So I've got kind of an interesting fact that I saw where in one of the nursing journals, as of 2019, they said 25% of new grads leave their positions within the first year of practice because they did not feel acclimated to their roles. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I can see that. Like, it is so stressful when you first start because the whole time you're in nursing school, you are being taught not to kill somebody. You're just like, you got to do it this way. The skills like this, be perfect, your skills check off. And so when you finally get into that role, one, you realize everything you learned is not enough. Like, you really haven't learned what you need to do. And then if you have a bad experience in the early parts of your career, I've seen nurses just quit. Like, I don't want to do this. I know I wasted my parents' money, but I just can't, because their first experience and their training was so awful. So that's sad, but I can kind of believe that statistic.
Well, and then they said too, like, training can range from 3 to 9 weeks, where they said the average amount of training to get acclimated to your new role is about 9 weeks. You think that's enough time to get trained? Right.
No. And it very much sends, oh, this makes me so mad. It very much sends what am I trying to say? Like, it makes it seem like it's not an important job.
Right.
Like, it sends that message, like, oh, take a few weeks to learn it and go out and do your job. It makes people, it shows that it just is not important. It's not a big deal that, you just go out and get a little training and go ahead.
And it's funny that you say that it's not important, because whenever they were talking with hospitals to see what was their driving force to train nurses, nobody mentioned, because it lowers, bad outcomes or improves patient experiences. Their focus was on, well, it saves the hospital money, like if a nurse stays, because they said to retrain a new grad, it's between $49,000 and $92,000 depending on the specialty. And that's what most of 80% of the hospitals that they spoke to, their leaders, that was their response, was they were trying to stay within the confines of their budget, not on the patient experience or lowering down adverse events.
And that's sad. It's just, I feel like I'm about to get fired up right now. Because it's just, it makes me so upset because, nurses are expected to know just enough to catch a mistake. But you getting paid a fraction of the cost and you bear all of the liability. Like, it just really, I don't understand why it's not more. And there are now the nurses have residency programs at some hospitals. So I do think that the training has gotten a little better as far as the book part of it.
Right.
But not the actual practice.
Right.
That's why I think nurses come out of school confident that they know how to pass a nursing test.
Right.
The problem is when you get on that floor and it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Right.
That is where the lack of the training needs more. So what do you think, needs to be improved?
The whole preceptorship period. Like, preceptors need to be trained. Like, it shouldn't be because, you're the good nurse on this floor, so you're automatically going to be the designated preceptor, because that person may not be a good teacher, let alone may not even want to do the training.
Right.
So, but then they're thrown into this role, and then you have this person who, whether they're a new grad or new to the floor, they're relying on this person to teach them, and if they have a bad experience, they're not probably going to stay. And I saw where the National Council of States Board of Nursing recommended that that process be like a total of 1 year, where the preceptor should have gone through some formal training for that particular floor, not just a generalized, okay, you're a preceptor training. And that the person should, if it's a new grad, it should be a year, that they go through, they get acclimated to whatever floor they're going to be working on. They have informatics, they get how we're going to be answering the phones, how to divide up your day, how to determine which patients come first, like all of that stuff. But then they said for the hospitals who actually implemented that, the turnover rate went down from 25% down to 14% because the nurses felt like, okay, I feel adequate enough to actually go out there and do the role, not to just know the knowledge, but actually know how to take care of people. So what about?
I agree.
Yeah.
The preceptor, being a preceptor should be a role. Like if you want to pursue being a preceptor, because I know some nurses, especially when I did clinical instructing, there were nurses on the floor that were great. Oh my goodness. They took the students, they showed them everything, they explained it, they let them do hands-on, they explained why this is right, why this isn't wrong, you know. They were great. And so they should, if you know that it's your natural talent to teach or be patient and explain, then go through a preceptor training and be a preceptor. But a lot of times it's just, I'm going to put you with this person.
Right.
And that person may be a great nurse, but they don't want to be a teacher. They may not be a good teacher, or they just don't want that burden. And that shows when they are precepting a new grad.
Right.
Did you have a good preceptor experience?
So when I first started out, it was kind of like the same thing. That I got put with the most experienced nurse of the floor. She was nice lady. She was good at her job, but she was good at her job in her own way.
Yeah.
So, but she couldn't teach me. Like, she was very fast and she talked a lot, and I mean, she knew how to get through her day and get through her 12-hour shift, but she didn't know how to slow down to be able to teach me to say, this is the rationale behind doing this. This is why we do this. So I had to learn to say, this experience is not working. So one day she wasn't there, and then I got put with another nurse, and she wasn't, but they didn't consider her to be one of the experienced ones because she hadn't been there that long, but that's when I learned the best. So then I had to go back and say, I want to change preceptors. And the lady that I was originally with, she was thankful. She was like, like, I didn't want to be a preceptor. I just kind of got told this is what I had to do. And she apologized, and I was like, it's not your fault, but, I thank you for trying, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's one thing you did was you had to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And I say that's a lot with nurses. We are so used to advocating for our patients, for, their care, but we seldomly advocate for ourselves. And a lot of times things are not going to get done unless we advocate for ourselves and being assertive and, not letting things get so far where it affects us negatively and we're not able to properly communicate our needs and get what we need. So my preceptor experience, when I first started, honestly, now that I look back, I wouldn't say it was bad.
Right.
But, I got this notebook here because I was cleaning out some things, and I came across this notebook, and I have a lot of notebooks. I'm one of those people who just buys notebooks. And I just started flipping through it. I noticed I started keeping a journal when I was a new nurse, and I forgot all about it. But I started reading through it, and I remember I started writing down what happened during my days because I was so afraid that something was going to happen bad that I wanted to make sure I documented every day what happened because I did not feel like I was getting proper training at the time. And I don't want to, though the nurses at my first job were great. They were wonderful nurses.
Right.
I have respect for them. I learned so much at my first job, but there wasn't a organized way to train me. And so I started with another girl. We both were new grads, and she didn't make it through orientation. She was like, "No, I'm gonna kill somebody."
Wow.
And that's a feeling sometimes when you're trying to take care of someone, and people aren't able to give you what you need.
Right.
So a couple things, I read a few things that I wrote, and it shocked me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like from then to now, I am way more confident now as a nurse, but at that time I really was scared, you know. So one day I wrote, and I won't say any names, but if you did work with me during my first job and you listening, I love you. You were great. But I would say my preceptor
there we go.
told me on several occasions that she didn't have the patience to be a preceptor. She also stated that she didn't feel comfortable training me how to cannulate. So that made me feel like, one, I'm a burden.
Right.
I'm in the way. She doesn't want to do it. What am I gonna do? I need to learn. And the type of my first job, it wasn't on the floor. It was I did acute dialysis.
That had to be interesting.
So I was in the hospital doing a lot of emergency dialysis, and it was very different.
And this is your first job?
My first job out of nursing school, and they didn't normally have new grads. I was kind of like a trial, and I was excited to do it. It was a great skill to learn, but it's a lot of independent working and a lot of working by yourself. So you need to know what to do
what you're doing.
When you're on your own. And if you have a preceptor who, one, already knows you do need patience to be a and she was a great nurse, and I say this all the time, she taught me a lot of things that I still carry now, but I think we had to tweak each other because she was my preceptor, and my personality was kind of like, I know you don't want to, but somebody got to, so how are we going to work together? But what if it was somebody who didn't have that personality, who just, like the person that I work with, she quit, she moved on. So that's a lot of preceptors, you know, feeling it. Sometimes you just don't feel confident enough in your own skill to teach someone else.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I feel like you shouldn't just throw people into that as a preceptor or as a new grad. That kind of affects how they feel. I'm gonna read something else I wrote. I put, I do not feel like I'm getting proper training. I am simply learning by trial and error. How many times have you felt like that as a nurse?
Right, but then you think about trial and error as a nurse, like with people, it's like, yeah, that can go kind of bad. But it's kind of like the lady said, like, okay, I'm going to kill somebody, so I'm out.
Yeah.
But sometimes that is what it is, trial and error, and you just like, all right, here, going for it, hoping for the best.
Yep. So, I mean, I just hate to even repeat it, but it's something that needs to be brought up so that we can do better. So we can, you know, work together as a nursing team, a healthcare, you know, to put more effort into making training better. Because what happens is, and we always say this, people turn into what we call spinning tops.
Yes.
So if you are a type of person who can advocate for yourself and who doesn't go after your own learning, you never get that confidence as a nurse. You go from job to job not feeling like you quite understand what to do, or you kind of nervous, you kind of just always paranoid that you're gonna hurt somebody. And it's not a good feeling, and it doesn't leave. It's kind of like as a child, you learn, whatever experiences you have as a child, it affects your adulthood. So whatever experiences you have as a baby nurse, if you weren't that type, you know, you weren't able to move past that and build on your own stuff, it follows you as a nurse. So you could be a nurse for 20, 30 years and still not be confidence. And then because you're that experienced nurse, you get put with a student, and then you pass that same thing to the new nurse.
Yep.
So
that's true.
I remember saying I don't feel prepared for an emergency. So I knew the book stuff.
Right.
But what was I gonna do with? Like, I didn't feel prepared.
Because you were on call, right?
I was on call, and I would have to come in the middle of the night. But there were many times where they tried to get me off training, and I had to say, not ready.
Right.
No, not taking call until this. Not. But that was me. I was able to do that. Think about all the people who don't. They just move on. Yeah. They're not able to just say no, or they come and then they don't feel confident. They don't, they may get through the task, they may not.
Right.
So I don't know.
So let's talk about our preceptor experiences, like as the preceptor. So I remember like how we first met. Like I showed up to work one day and I remember walking in and I just look over and see this nurse standing there and I was like, oh, I like her hair. I was like, oh, I guess she's a new MA. And I went in the office and sat down, not knowing she was the nurse that I was supposed to be training for the new RN position. Nobody told me. I didn't have a booklet of, okay, this is what I need to show her or how we're going to do it. So we winged it. Yeah. But we made it work.
And here we are.
Right. There's a lot of advocating.
Yeah, definitely. And we weren't new nurses. I wasn't a new nurse.
No.
We weren't a new nurse when I started that job. And then even, when I started, I didn't know you. They didn't tell me anything. I went in there. They were like, she comes at about 8:10. She's a little late sometimes. And I was sitting there waiting, and they were like, "Oh, there's Nikki," and you just walked past me and went in the office. And my perception was kind of like, okay, but I didn't, like I said, my personality. I'm like, okay, well, just how they got me sitting here, maybe she don't know too. So anyway, we were both able to, figure out what to do and kind of create our own training. But that didn't work for some of our other colleagues. No, they didn't stay. No. They never felt comfortable. They didn't feel like they could make it. So I've precepted nursing students. Like I said, I've done clinical instructing, and most of the time, the main thing I tried to teach them was to be confident and to advocate for themselves, because a lot of things were going to come with working. Right. But that's something in nursing you just have to do, because it's nothing put in place. A lot of places don't have that organized, structured education. I don't understand how, when doctors go to med school, they go through their training, their residency, their, what else they have? Something else. I don't know. But, we just get thrown out on the floor, and it's like, well, are we not just as important to this healthcare? So I don't know. Hopefully we can all work together and get it straightened out.
Yeah, but that's part of our mission to be a nurse strong. We trying to change the current culture of how nursing is. So, and being a preceptor and the Preceptee Experience is one of those things. Yeah. So. All right. I think that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye.